The arrival. The sleek, silver spacecraft descended through Earth's atmosphere, its hull shimmering as it pierced the cloud cover. Inside, Ambassador Zaxlor of the Galactic Confederation nervously adjusted his translucent, gel-like exosuit. After years of preparation and study, he was finally about to set foot on the enigmatic planet that had both fascinated and terrified the galactic community for centuries. As the ship touched down on the landing pad at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, Zaxlor took a deep breath, his 6 lungs expanding within his gelatinous form. The trip had been long, but the real challenge was just beginning. His mission: to understand why humans, despite being part of the peaceful Galactic Confederation for over a century, remained so heavily armed. The airlock hissed open, and Zaxlor glided down the ramp, his translucent body rippling with a mix of excitement and apprehension. A small delegation of humans waited at the bottom, their faces a mixture of curiosity and caution. At the forefront stood a woman in a crisp military uniform, her posture rigid and her eyes sharp. "Ambassador Zaxlor," she said, stepping forward with an outstretched hand. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen, your liaison for this diplomatic mission. Welcome to Earth." Zaxlor extended a gelatinous pseudopod, mimicking the human gesture of handshaking. "Thank you, Captain Chen. I look forward to learning about your world and your unique approach to galactic peace." As they walked towards the main complex, Zaxlor couldn't help but notice the abundance of weapons. Guards stood at attention, their plasma rifles at the ready. Sleek fighter jets streaked across the sky, leaving trails of white vapor in their wake. Even the civilians he could see in the distance seemed to carry some form of personal defense. "I must admit, Captain," Zaxlor said, his voice a melodious hum, "I find the prevalence of weaponry unsettling. In most Confederation worlds, such displays are reserved for museums or ceremonial purposes." Captain Chen's expression remained neutral, but her eyes flickered with a mix of pride and something deeper, perhaps a hint of sorrow. "Ambassador, what you see here is the result of millennia of human history and our unique position in the galaxy. We've learned the hard way that peace must be guarded vigilantly." They entered a vast atrium, its walls adorned with murals depicting various battles and conflicts throughout human history. Zaxlor's compound eyes widened as he took in the scenes of violence and heroism. "This is our Hall of Remembrance," Captain Chen explained. "It serves as a reminder of the countless lives lost in our journey to the stars and the price we've paid for our current peace." Zaxlor floated closer to one of the murals, his gelatinous form rippling with emotion. The image showed a group of humans, bloodied and battered, standing defiantly against a horde of alien invaders. "The Krolex incursion," he murmured, recognizing the infamous event from his historical briefings. "Yes," Chen confirmed. "One of the earliest and most brutal alien attacks on Earth. It taught us that we couldn't rely solely on diplomacy to protect ourselves." As they continued through the complex, Zaxlor observed the juxtaposition of advanced technology and ancient weaponry. Plasma cannons stood beside preserved tanks from World War I. Holographic training simulations ran alongside traditional shooting ranges. "Your species seems to have an intimate relationship with the tools of war," Zaxlor noted, his tone a mixture of fascination and concern. Captain Chen nodded, her expression solemn. "It's not just about the weapons, Ambassador. It's about the mindset. Humans have always faced existential threats, whether from ourselves or from the stars. We've developed a unique capacity for violence, yes, but also for protection and sacrifice." They reached a large window overlooking a massive hangar. Inside, engineers and scientists bustled around a colossal machine that Zaxlor couldn't quite comprehend. It seemed to be a weapon, but on a scale he had never encountered before. What is that?" he asked, his gelatinous form quivering slightly. Captain Chen's lips curled into a small, proud smile. "That, Ambassador, is Project Aegis. It's our latest planetary defense system, capable of creating an energy shield around the entire Earth. It's not just a weapon. It's a shield for all of humanity. Zaxlor's mind reeled at the implications. The technology, the resources, the sheer will required to create such a device was staggering. But why? The Galactic Confederation ensures peace. There hasn't been a large-scale conflict in centuries. Chen turned to face the alien diplomat, her eyes blazing with an intensity that made Zaxlor instinctively retreat a few centimeters. Ambassador, humanity has learned through bitter experience that peace is not a constant state. It's a daily choice, a continuous effort. We arm ourselves not because we wish for war, but because we cherish peace so deeply that we will do anything to preserve it. She gestured towards the busy hangar. Every weapon you see, every soldier you meet, they're not just instruments of destruction. They're guardians of life, protectors of our home, our families, our very existence. Zaxlor absorbed her words, his perception of humanity slowly shifting. He had come to Earth expecting to find a paradox, a peaceful race inexplicably obsessed with weapons. Instead, he was beginning to glimpse a deeper truth, a complexity to the human spirit that both awed and terrified him. "I see I have much to learn about your species, Captain Chen," Zaxlor said, his voice tinged with a new respect. "Perhaps the question isn't why humans are so heavily armed, but how you've managed to wield such power without succumbing to its allure." Chen's expression softened slightly. "That, Ambassador, is the real story of humanity. And it's one I look forward to sharing with you over the course of your visit." As they continued their tour, Zaxlor felt a growing sense of anticipation. He had come to Earth seeking answers about human weaponry, but he was beginning to realize that the true revelation would be about the human spirit itself, its resilience, its complexity, and its unyielding determination to survive and thrive in a dangerous universe. The first day of his diplomatic mission was drawing to a close, but Zaxlor knew that his journey to understand humanity was just beginning. And somewhere deep in his gelatinous form, a part of him wondered if he, and the rest of the Galactic Confederation, were ready for the truths he would uncover. Historical context. The next morning, Ambassador Zaxlor found himself floating alongside Captain Chen through the cavernous halls of the Global War Museum. The building, a sprawling complex of steel and glass, housed millennia of human conflict history. As they moved from exhibit to exhibit, Zaxlor's gelatinous form rippled with a mix of fascination and horror. "Your species has such a vivid history of violence," Zaxlor remarked, his compound eyes taking in a diorama of an ancient battlefield. Miniature figures clashed with swords and spears, their faces frozen in eternal combat. Captain Chen nodded solemnly. "War has been a constant companion throughout our history, Ambassador. It shaped our societies, our technologies, and our very nature. They moved through time periods, the rise and fall of empires, the Industrial Revolution, the World Wars. Each era brought new weapons, new tactics, and new scales of destruction." Zaxlor paused before a replica of an atomic bomb, his translucent body pulsing with unease. This single device could destroy an entire city?" he asked, his voice a trembling whisper. "Yes," Chen replied, her face grim. "The development of nuclear weapons marked a turning point in our history. For the first time, we held the power to annihilate ourselves completely." Zaxlor's form shimmered with confusion. "But why continue developing such weapons if they threatened your very existence?" Chen's eyes held a distant look. "Deterrence, Ambassador. The threat of mutual destruction kept an uneasy peace for decades. It's a dark irony of human history. Sometimes the best way to prevent violence is to be prepared for it." As they progressed, the exhibits shifted from earthbound conflicts to humanity's first steps into space. Zaxlor saw images of the first lunar landing, the Mars colonies, and the early encounters with alien life. "Ah, the dawn of your interstellar era," Zaxlor hummed. "Surely this marked the end of your need for weapons. The galaxy welcomed you with open arms." Chen's laugh was sharp and without humor. "If only it were that simple, Ambassador. She led him to a holographic display showing Earth's first contact with an alien species, the Arcturians. The hologram played out the scene. Human diplomats extending hands in greeting, the insectoid Arcturians seeming to reciprocate. Then, without warning, the aliens attacked, their hidden weapons cutting down the unsuspecting humans. Zaxlor recoiled, his gelatinous form contracting in shock. But this isn't in any of our historical records. No, it wouldn't be, Chen said, her voice hard. The Arcturian attack was repelled, and they sued for peace shortly after. They've been model members of the Galactic Confederation ever since, and this incident was quietly forgotten by most. But not by humans, Zaxlor realized. Never by humans, Chen confirmed. This event, and others like it, taught us a harsh lesson. The galaxy may be vast and full of wonders, but it's also fraught with dangers. We learned that we needed to be prepared for anything, even in times of apparent peace. They moved on to more recent history. The Krolex incursion, the neutrino star crisis, the quantum plague. Each event showcased humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and above all, their preparedness. Do you see now, Ambassador? Chen asked, as they stood before a massive mural depicting Earth's current planetary defense system. Our weapons aren't just tools of war. They're our insurance policy against extinction, our guarantee of survival in a universe that's not always kind. Zaxlor absorbed the information, his mind racing. The human perspective was so different from anything he had encountered in the Galactic Confederation. Where most species saw weapons as a last resort, humans viewed them as a necessity, a constant companion in their journey through the stars. But surely, now that you're part of the Galactic Confederation, you can relax your guard a little. Zaxlor ventured. The combined might of 1,000 peaceful species cannot guarantee our safety. Chen interrupted gently. Ambassador, we value our place in the Confederation. We've learned much from our galactic neighbors, and we hope they've learned from us. But ultimately, we believe that our security, our very existence, rests in our own hands. As they exited the museum, stepping into the sunlight, Zaxlor found himself looking at the humans around him with new eyes. The weapons he had initially found so disturbing now seemed like extensions of the humans themselves, tools of survival honed by millennia of struggle. You've given me much to think about, Captain, Zaxlor said, his voice thoughtful. I begin to understand why humans arm themselves so thoroughly. But I wonder, doesn't carrying such power come with its own dangers? Chen smiled, a mix of pride and caution in her expression. That, Ambassador, is the eternal struggle of humanity. We wield the power to destroy worlds, yet we strive to be creators and protectors. It's a delicate balance, one we must maintain every single day. As they made their way back to the Defense Force headquarters, Zaxlor reflected on what he had learned. The human propensity for armament wasn't just about aggression or paranoia. It was a complex mixture of historical trauma, pragmatic caution, and an unyielding determination to survive against any odds. But as he watched a group of children playing in a nearby park, their laughter ringing out beneath the watchful eyes of armed guards, Zaxlor couldn't help but wonder, what price did humans pay for this constant vigilance? And what lessons could the rest of the galaxy learn from this paradoxical species that loved peace so fiercely that they never ceased preparing for war? The day's revelations had answered some of Zaxlor's questions, but had given rise to many more. As the sun set on his second day on Earth, the alien ambassador knew that his journey to understand humanity was far from over. The layers of complexity in human nature seemed as vast and mysterious as the galaxy itself, and Zaxlor was only beginning to scratch the surface. Current threats. The third day of Ambassador Zaxlor's visit dawned with an air of anticipation. As his gelatinous form glided alongside Captain Chen through the heavily fortified corridors of Earth's Galactic Threat Assessment Center, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to witness something unprecedented. "What you're about to see, Ambassador," Chen said, her voice low and serious, "is classified at the highest levels. The general public, even most of our own government, isn't aware of the full scope of what I'm about to show you." Zaxlor's form rippled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I'm honored by your trust, Captain, but why share such sensitive information with me?" Chen's eyes met his compound gaze, her expression resolute. "Because understanding this is crucial to understanding us, Ambassador. And because we believe it's time the Galactic Confederation faced the truth about the state of our galaxy." They entered a vast, circular room dominated by a holographic display of the Milky Way. Countless stars twinkled in the projected darkness, but Zaxlor's attention was drawn to several areas marked in pulsing red. "These," Chen explained, gesturing to the red zones, "are what we call silent sectors, regions of space where all communication and commerce have suddenly and inexplicably ceased." Zaxlor's form quivered. But the Confederation monitors all galactic communications. We've detected no such anomalies." "You haven't detected them because you weren't looking," Chen said grimly. She tapped a console, and a hologram zoomed in on one of the red sectors. This was the Zeta Reticuli system 3 standard months ago. The hologram showed a thriving star system, planets teeming with life, space stations bustling with activity, ships zipping to and fro. Then, without warning, everything went dark. In the span of a few seconds, all signs of civilization simply vanished. "By the cosmic core," Zaxlor whispered, his gelatinous body pale with shock. What could cause such devastation?" Chen's face was grim. "We don't know for certain, but we have theories." She tapped the console again, and the hologram shifted to show grainy footage from a probe. A massive, shadow-like entity moved across the screen, consuming light and matter in its path. "We call it the Void," Chen explained. "It's not a single entity, but a collective of something that exists outside our understanding of physics and biology." Zaxlor watched in horror as the shadow engulfed entire planets, leaving nothing but empty space in its wake. How many of these events have you recorded?" 17 in the past standard year," Chen replied, her voice heavy. "Each one in a different sector, each one leaving no trace of the civilizations it consumed." The ambassador's mind reeled. But surely the Confederation would have noticed. "The Confederation sees what it wants to see, Ambassador," Chen interrupted gently. "Peace has reigned for so long that most species have forgotten how to look for threats. But humans, we've never had that luxury." She led Zaxlor to another section of the room, where screens displayed a dizzying array of other potential threats. Dimensionally shifted predators, quantum anomalies that erased matter from existence, even evidence of incursions from parallel universes. "This," Chen said, sweeping her arm to encompass the room, "is why we remain armed, Ambassador. Not out of paranoia or aggression, but out of a deep-seated need to protect not just ourselves, but all sentient life." Zaxlor absorbed the information, his entire worldview shifting. The peaceful galaxy he thought he knew was an illusion, a fragile bubble maintained by humanity's vigilance. "Why?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Why take on this burden? Why not share this information with the Confederation?" Chen's expression softened. "We've tried, Ambassador, but our warnings have been dismissed as warmongering, our evidence as fabrications. The galaxy wants to believe in perfect peace, and we can't afford to." She led him to a final display, showing Earth's current defense systems, fleets of advanced starships, planetary shields, weapons that could reshape reality itself. "Everything you see here," Chen explained, "every weapon, every defense system, is designed with one purpose: to stand against the darkness that threatens to engulf us all. We don't arm ourselves out of fear, but out of hope. Hope that when the time comes, we'll be ready to defend not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy." Zaxlor stared at the displays, his mind grappling with the enormity of what he'd learned. The humans, often seen as paranoid and overly militant by the rest of the Confederation, were in fact the silent guardians of galactic peace. I don't know what to say, Zaxlor admitted, his form rippling with conflicting emotions. This changes everything I thought I knew about your species, about the galaxy itself. Chen placed a hand gently on what passed for Zaxlor's shoulder. Understanding is the first step, Ambassador. We don't expect you to agree with all our methods, but we hope you can see why we believe they're necessary. As they left the Threat Assessment Center, Zaxlor found himself looking at the armed humans around him with new eyes. What he had once seen as weapons of war, he now recognized as shields against an unimaginably dark future. Captain, Zaxlor said as they walked, I came here to understand why humans are always armed. I think I'm beginning to grasp the answer, but it's raised so many more questions. What do you hope to achieve by sharing this information with me? Chen's smile was tinged with both hope and sadness. Change, Ambassador. We hope for change. We can't stand against the darkness alone forever. We need the Confederation to wake up, to remember that peace isn't a given. It's something that must be fought for and protected. As the day drew to a close, Zaxlor found himself standing at a window, looking out at the bustling human city. Beneath the veneer of normalcy, he now saw a species carrying an immense burden, standing as silent sentinels against threats beyond imagination. The question that had brought him to Earth, why are humans always armed, now seemed almost quaint in the face of the vast, cosmic challenges humanity had taken upon itself to face. As night fell on his third day on Earth, Zaxlor realized that his mission had become something far greater than a simple diplomatic inquiry. He was now part of something monumental, a witness to a truth that could reshape the future of the entire galaxy. And as he watched the sun set on this world of warrior guardians, Zaxlor couldn't help but wonder, what would tomorrow bring? And more importantly, when the darkness finally came for them all, would humanity's preparation be enough? The demonstration. The dawn of the fourth day found Ambassador Zaxlor in a state of nervous anticipation. After the revelations of the previous day, he wasn't sure what to expect next. Captain Chen met him with a glint of excitement in her eyes. Today, Ambassador, she said, her voice carrying a note of pride, we're going to show you how we prepare for the unthinkable. They boarded a sleek, military-grade shuttle. As they took off, Zaxlor noticed that they were heading away from the city, towards a vast expanse of undeveloped land. Where are we going, Captain? Zaxlor asked, his gelatinous form rippling with curiosity. To the Omega training grounds, Chen replied. It's where we simulate and prepare for various cosmic threats. You've seen our history and our reasons. Now you'll see our methods. The shuttle descended into a massive underground complex. As they disembarked, Zaxlor was struck by the sheer scale of the facility. Holographic projectors, advanced robotics, and technology he couldn't even begin to comprehend filled the cavernous space. Chen led him to an observation deck overlooking an enormous arena. What you're about to witness, Ambassador, is a live training exercise. Our soldiers will be facing a simulated void incursion. Zaxlor's compound eyes widened. But how can you simulate something you don't fully understand? Chen's smile was grim. We use the data we've gathered from our probes and survivors' accounts. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do to prepare. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Squads of heavily armed soldiers poured into the arena below. The air shimmered, and a terrifying facsimile of the void entity Zaxlor had seen in the holographic recordings materialized. What followed was unlike anything the Ambassador had ever witnessed. The human soldiers moved with a coordination and precision that seemed almost prescient. They deployed weapons that bent light, manipulated gravity, and even seemed to alter the fabric of space-time itself. Incredible, Zaxlor whispered, his form pulsating with awe. Your weapons, they're beyond anything in the Confederation's records. Chen nodded. We've had to push the boundaries of science and technology to stand a chance against these threats. Conventional weapons are useless against entities like the Void. As the battle raged on, Zaxlor noticed something peculiar. Despite the advanced weaponry, the soldiers seemed to rely heavily on their own physical abilities and quick thinking. Why not fully automate the defense? He asked. Surely AI systems could react faster, more efficiently. Chen's expression turned solemn. We've tried that, Ambassador, but we found that the human element, our adaptability, our intuition, our sheer stubborn will to survive, is our greatest weapon against the unknown. The exercise concluded with the simulated void entity contained and dissipated. The soldiers below cheered, their faces a mix of exhaustion and triumph. This is just one scenario, Chen explained as they left the observation deck. We run hundreds of simulations, preparing for every threat we can imagine, and some we can't. They toured other parts of the facility, labs developing new defensive technologies, think tanks strategizing against potential cosmic threats, and even a section dedicated to diplomatic scenarios. Diplomacy? Zaxlor asked, surprised. I thought this was a military facility. Chen's laugh was warm. Ambassador, warfare is our last resort, not our first. We prepare for peace as diligently as we prepare for conflict. Sometimes, the right words can be more powerful than any weapon. As the day progressed, Zaxlor's understanding of humanity deepened. He saw not just their martial prowess, but their creativity, their teamwork, their unyielding spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Towards the end of their tour, they stopped at a memorial wall. Thousands of names were etched into its surface, each representing a human who had given their life in the silent war against cosmic threats. These are the ones who stood in the darkness so others could live in the light, Chen said softly. Every name here represents a life given so that billions more, human and alien alike, could continue in peace and ignorance of the dangers that lurk in the void. Zaxlor felt a profound sense of humility wash over him. The scale of human sacrifice, the weight of the burden they carried, was almost beyond comprehension. Captain, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say. Your people, you carry such a heavy burden. And you do it without recognition, without thanks. Chen's smile was bittersweet. Recognition isn't why we do this, Ambassador. We do it because someone has to. Because if we don't stand against the darkness, who will? As they prepared to leave the facility, Zaxlor found himself grappling with conflicting emotions. The martial might of humanity, which had once terrified him, now filled him with a sense of reassurance. Yet the knowledge of the threats they faced, the constant vigilance required, seemed an almost unbearable burden. Captain, Zaxlor said as they boarded the shuttle back to the city, after everything I've seen, I have to ask, how do you maintain hope in the face of such overwhelming challenges? Chen's eyes met his, filled with a fierce determination. Because we must, Ambassador. Hope is our most powerful weapon. Hope that our efforts will make a difference. Hope that one day we won't have to fight alone. Hope that despite the darkness, life and love, and all the beautiful things in this universe will endure. As they flew back towards the city, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Zaxlor found himself seeing Earth and humanity in a new light. The armed humans he had once feared now appeared as guardians, standing vigilant against terrors beyond imagination. Yet, as the city lights began to twinkle in the gathering dusk, a new question formed in Zaxlor's mind. If these were the lengths humans went to in preparation, what would happen if they ever had to put all this training and technology to use in a real crisis? Little did he know, events were already in motion that would provide him with an answer sooner than anyone could have anticipated. The revelation. The fifth day of Ambassador Zaxlor's visit to Earth dawned with an unsettling calm. As he prepared for what he thought would be a final day of discussions and farewells, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the complex. Captain Chen burst into his quarters, her face a mask of controlled urgency. Ambassador, "We have a situation," she said, her voice tense. "We've detected a void incursion in a nearby star system. This isn't a drill." Zaxlor's gelatinous form rippled with shock and fear. "What? What can I do?" Chen's eyes met his with steely determination. "Witness, Ambassador. Witness, and remember, this is why we are always armed." They rushed to the command center, a flurry of activity already in progress. Holographic displays showed a terrifying sight. A massive, shadow-like entity was consuming a populated planet in the Alpha Centauri system. "All units, this is not a drill. Operation Lightbringer is now in effect," Chen announced, her voice echoing through the facility. "May whatever gods you believe in be with us all." Zaxlor watched in awe as the human war machine sprang into action with practiced precision. Warships jumped into hyperspace, carrying weapons of unimaginable power. Soldiers donned advanced battle suits, preparing to face an enemy that defied conventional physics. "Captain," Zaxlor said, his voice quivering, "surely the Confederation should be notified. We could send aid." Chen shook her head. "There's no time, Ambassador. By the time the Confederation mobilizes, it'll be too late. This is what we've prepared for. This is our duty." The next few hours were a blur of frenetic activity. Zaxlor observed as humans coordinated their efforts with a level of efficiency that seemed almost prescient. Ships engaged the void entity, deploying weapons that bent space and time. Ground teams evacuated civilians from the affected planets, risking their lives in the face of cosmic horror. What struck Zaxlor most was not just the advanced technology or the martial prowess of the humans, but their unwavering courage. In the face of an enemy that could erase them from existence, they stood firm, protecting not just their own kind, but all sentient life in the system. As the battle raged on, Chen explained the intricacies of their strategy. "We're not just fighting the void, Ambassador. We're trying to understand it, to find a way to communicate with it, or, if necessary, seal it away from our reality." Zaxlor watched as human scientists worked feverishly, analyzing data from the battlefield in real time, seeking weaknesses or patterns in the void's behavior. It was a harmony of martial might and scientific inquiry that he had never seen before. Hours turned into days. The human forces suffered heavy losses, but they refused to yield. Zaxlor found himself in awe of their tenacity, their ability to face cosmic horror with resolute determination. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, a breakthrough came. A team of human scientists had developed a way to create a dimensional rift, a way to force the void back into whatever realm it had come from. The final push was a sight Zaxlor knew he would never forget. Human ships, many damaged and barely functioning, formed a perimeter around the void entity. They activated their dimensional devices in unison, creating a swirling vortex of energy. For a moment, it seemed as if their efforts would be in vain. The void entity resisted, its darkness threatening to engulf everything. But then, with a final, heroic effort, the humans poured every ounce of power they had into their devices. The void entity shuddered, convulsed, and then, with a silent scream that Zaxlor felt in the very core of his being, it was sucked into the dimensional rift. The vortex collapsed, leaving behind an eerie calm. The command center erupted in cheers, but they were subdued, tempered by the knowledge of the cost of their victory. As the casualty reports began to come in, Zaxlor saw the weight of their triumph etched in the faces of every human present. In the aftermath, as recovery and rebuilding efforts began, Captain Chen found a moment to speak with Zaxlor privately. "Now you've seen, Ambassador," she said, her voice heavy with exhaustion and emotion. "This is why we're always armed. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for moments like these. Moments when we stand as the last line of defense against the darkness." Zaxlor's form rippled with a complex mix of emotions, awe, gratitude, and a deep, abiding respect. I understand now, Captain. Truly I do. But what happens next? The Confederation will have noticed this event. questions will be asked. Chen's smile was tired but determined. That, Ambassador, is where you come in. You've seen the truth. You've witnessed our burden. We hope you'll help us open the eyes of the Confederation to the real state of our galaxy. As Zaxlor prepared to leave Earth, his mind was awhirl with all he had witnessed. The humans he had once seen as needlessly militant, he now recognized as guardians of galactic peace. Their weapons were not tools of war, but shields against cosmic horror. Standing at the shuttle bay, ready to depart, Zaxlor turned to Captain Chen one last time. I came here seeking answers about why humans are always armed, he said, his voice filled with newfound respect. I leave with a mission of my own. The galaxy must know the truth. It must understand the debt we owe to humanity. Chen clasped his gelatinous appendage in a warm handshake. Safe travels, Ambassador. And remember, in the darkest night, humanity stands ready. We are the watchers on the walls of reality, the shields that guard the realms of light. And we will never, ever stop fighting for the future of all sentient life. As Zaxlor's ship lifted off, carrying him back to the heart of the Galactic Confederation, he knew that his journey was far from over. He had come to Earth seeking simple answers about human armament. He left as a messenger, carrying a truth that could reshape the galaxy's understanding of both humanity and the cosmos itself. The question, why are humans always armed, now had an answer, one far more profound and humbling than Zaxlor could have ever imagined. And as Earth faded to a blue marble behind him, he silently thanked these strange, courageous beings who stood vigilant against the encroaching dark, allowing the rest of the galaxy to sleep peacefully under the light of distant stars.